Welcome back. Hi. So, I've talked about this before many times. And the reason I'm going to talk about it again is because Sarveen mentioned something about how her mind is getting tired. Okay? So, it'd be like, maybe it's time to just give it a break. Maybe it's time that it's saying, consciousness is saying, let's try something different. Let's try just receiving joy, what joy is offering. And maybe I was sitting up here and I was speaking Malayalam or Chinese or something that you have no way of understanding. Right? You'd have to use a different faculty, right? And receiving a transmission is way more beneficial than understanding my words. Mm-hmm. Way more. Way more. Okay? Because what I'm sharing with you is my experience as I'm speaking. I'm speaking and I'm feeling the experience at the same time. So my words are merely a vehicle that the transmission is traveling on, right? It's like a little car. And this little car has a potential of either going in or not, right? But the mind thinks it needs to filter out the little car and understand the little car and take it apart and figure it out. So maybe just for now, see if the little car can just come in. Right? Like you're like a little garage door, right? And the little car is beep, 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 and it's honking and it's going, can I come in now? Right? Okay? And I don't really say this very much. I don't really feel the need to. It's not really that important. But I carry two very special transmissions. I carry the Dharmic transmission of Adyashanti and the Dharmic transmission of Amma. And a Dharmic transmission is literally a passing of the torch. It's like the master passes the torch and said, okay, now you carry this for a while. Okay? So that quality inspires this being into this function of teaching. It's what it's made for. Okay? This vehicle called joy is about a function to teach, to share this Dharma. And the transmission from my masters inspires it to do so. It brings out that quality. Okay? And so when I'm sharing it, it's coming from that kind of inspiration, that kind of real, this is exactly what's working through, is through a function of sharing. It just is going through cleanly without me having any expectation from it, okay? So for you to be able to learn how, to not learn how to receive, but to feel yourself, your own capacity to receive it. Just as I learned how to receive it. And I've talked a lot about receptivity today, and I can literally feel when people can receive my transmission. I can tell when it's going in. I can also tell when it's not. It's like a little ping pong ball hitting a window, and it just kind of goes poink. Right? Poink. And I might talk to the person, like try to get it to kind of like change, but it can't do it. It's not up to me. It's not up to me to make you receptive. It will never, I can never do that, ever. I can only offer this. and hope that the garage door is open, or that you hear the little horn, beep, beep, in the invitation, right? And what does it mean to feel receptive? Maybe you just get tired. Okay? Because oftentimes when we're tired, what we do is we try to get not tired. And we're trying to oh, I've got to get this because we've only got, 1.5 more days left and I need to get this, right? Right? But maybe it wants to be gotten in a different way, a deeper way, a more experimental way, a more direct way. The direct way happens in a way that we can't understand through our intellect. And of course, that's good. Because I know that some of you really want to know how. I can feel it from you. You want to know how. You need to know how. And you're not open to another possibility that is about not knowing how. Okay? Can you consider that? Mm-hmm. Not knowing how. Could that be a viable way? And allowing the consciousness that's here and sharing itself with the consciousness that's here. That's all that's happening. The consciousness that's here is sharing itself with the consciousness that's here. That's all that's happening. It's not really huge. It's not really special. But it has the potential to be very direct, and it also has the potential to be completely blocked. And everything in between. Filtered and interpreted and misunderstood and grasped at and resisted and whatever it is that the mind likes to do, right? So, since we've talked so much about the nervous system in the last few days, why don't we just talk about it a little bit more, okay? Because feeling this sense of self, right, this is what we've talked about a lot, is happening in the nervous system. This feeling is happening in your nervous system, the sense of self. The nervous system senses self. Pretty cool, huh? You already got it on. You've just you got your little suit on and you're ready to go. What's the big deal? You got your suit on. You don't need to do anything else, but let this sensing recognize its own capacity to receive. Okay? And now you're trying to understand what that means. How's it working?
Follow the question. Trying to understand. What happens when you're asleep in a dream? Is it still the nervous system that can be self-aware?
I don't know. In a dream? Yeah, it could be.
Because some people say, your awareness is out of your body and it's bonded with a cord.
I'm not really interested in that. It's more
conceptual, but
it's more theorizing,
yeah.
And I can't go there. I can only talk about what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
right? I can only talk about things that are applicable, you know. And I like to dream, but sometimes I don't dream, so I'm not really curious about dreaming because it doesn't seem to have anything to do with me, really. Just kind of like another dream. Unless Amma's in it. So feeling a sense of self is really activating this faculty to receive. Activating. And not only here in satsang, but in all of life. Every time you're outside, every time you're feeling something, especially the deep, intense ones, this opportunity to share, what we were talking about earlier, is also a receiving thing. We're not giving something away. We're not trying to get rid of it. We're receiving the support of the infinite reality into the nervous system, the spaciousness, right? So receiving, maybe even practice just working from the head down and feeling it viscerally and not trying to understand what exactly is going on inside now, right? That's, I'm sure, why Amma didn't have anything translated for the 10 years I was living in India. There's that cluelessness. Clueless. What is the infinite reality doing in there right now? Do you know? No, I don't either. And I don't need to know. But I can feel it a lot. I can feel it. And the more I feel it, the more I feel it. Okay? So the more we explore our capacity to receive, the nervous system's capacity to receive, the more it receives. It's just like using a muscle, right? But if we're trying to get it, and we're trying to understand it, and we're trying to fix it, and we're trying to work through it, and we're trying to see it, we're thinking that I need to know. I need to know what's going on all the time. Can you trust that the receptive quality will make you sensitive enough that you'll finally be able to see what you need to see when you need to see it? Okay? Because that's what we're developing. We're developing our capacity to sense illusion. What's illusion? Unconscious consciousness, right? The separate self, we could call it. Unconscious consciousness. To sense it in our nervous system. And this art of receptivity is what is enabling us to be sensitive, increasingly more sensitive enough so that this capacity to see and feel illusion when we need to see it, as we need to see it, in relationship to it, as we need to be in relationship with it. And it all happens through receptivity. It all happens through the sharing, and it's not just with the teacher, but also all of life. Everything is giving off transmission. Okay? Everything, that bush, that tree, the house, the rock, the car, the table, everything. because it's not a house and a bush and a rock and a car and a table. It's not. It's what we call those things through our eyes, through our mind. When we receive, we lose even the interest to do that, to start calling things things. I have no interest to call anything anything, because that's not what it is. Right? My joy is in receiving it. I like receiving. It's what my vehicle was made for. It's my suit. It likes to receive. It finds its bliss. It feels great joy in receiving. And I'm sharing this joy with you right now, as a matter of fact. Can you feel it? Or are you interpreting it with your mind? Oh, good, she's happy. Right? I don't care if you're happy about me being happy. I would rather you have the same experience as I am. I want some traveling companions. Right? And that is my only interest. And that's the function of this dharmic transmission. It has to share itself. It has to.
Is that why we sometimes, well, I sometimes experience like wanting to share, help others? Like it not in a teacher sense, but just like sharing some of what the transmission and the teachings, and yeah, I can't really.
Well, there might be a little desire to, but in my experience, there's no movement to unless there's a big open space to go there. Otherwise, I have no interest in it, because it's just a movement. It's like looking for the yoga mat. It's the same energy. If the door's open to go, then it for sure, right? But to want to tell people about how much this teaching has helped you.
That's not really what it's not what I'm getting at.
Okay. It's not what you're getting at.
No, it's more of a, for lack of a better word, it's more of a compassion or a love kind of movement.
Oh, absolutely. It's actually coming from that you care.
Mm.
That you care.
And it's not with everybody, it's just occasionally bumping into it going,
Yeah.
hmm.
Oh, yeah. That's natural, for sure. If it's practical, that's a different story, right? You know, most people really don't want it.
I've noticed that.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody's suffering completely, and you kind of like offer them a little bit of something,
That's the sort of situation.
and they're like, I know. Like, okay.
Yeah, that's more like what I was trying to get. It's
Yeah.
just-
Yeah.
When you read that Rumi in Farsi for us some time back, the transmission was just phenomenal. I couldn't understand a word, obviously.
Yeah, right. You didn't need to. Yeah, there was the song inside, the music inside. And that's what transmission is. It's like a music, it's like a song. And it's got a beauty to it, a presence to it. It's not filtered through the mind. And the reason why it has a music to it is because you're hearing it through your own music. It's like a little, like a tuning fork. A lot of my students, they call me a tuning fork because I set off the music that we share, right? And to feel it as such in your own being is what this is about, right? So where is the mind involved in this? Where's the how-to, or how do I? Can we be more, whatever? To feel it deeply as a tuning. That's what this consciousness is doing, without my mind understanding how it's doing it. So my mind is out of the way. I understand it's being done because I can feel it happening. I can sense the function taking place. It's just right? It has nothing to do with me. If I came in here and had a plan, you wouldn't like it at all. But I come in, I sit down, and I say, okay, I'm clueless now. I have no idea what wants to happen. And the music happens because it knows how to touch itself. It knows how to tune itself if it's allowed to do it. And this is very delightful for me when I can feel it being received, because the function is fulfilling itself. Right? And that's all there is. And so to feel this as you would the sense of self. Okay? We're activating that simple nervous system. Right? And we're going below the level of the mind. Because this is where we're going anyway. Sooner or later, we need to start being aware that this nervous system is where the infinite reality is occupying what it is occupying, or attempting to occupy. So if you're listening with what is she talking about, and you're trying to get it and take it from the level of mind and then apply it, there might be a lot of interpretation going on. But how about if you just feel? Just like you feel the sense of self. It's because we're using the exact same sensing field. Okay? The exact same one. The sense of self. Okay? And can you allow yourself just to feel what's being offered here? That's all. Receive. Simply receiving. And it's so funny because this is like one of the most first teachings I offered 12 years ago. One of the most basic teachings I ever offered. And I'm coming back to it. I'm coming back to it because I feel how vital it is that people experience this. Because the infinite reality is continually informing us through this sensing faculty. Continually. And are we paying attention to it? Right? That's where it's happening. And it has nothing to do with what I think, what I want, what I don't want, what I hope for, what I expect, what I know, what I've heard, what I think is wrong with me. Nothing to do with any of that. Transformation is happening from the inside out, okay? like a little baby chick, right? Inside the egg. And it starts to mature inside the egg. And the egg still looks like an egg. You have no idea what's going on. You're looking at the egg, still looks the same, still looks the same, still looks the same. Right? And if you tried to crack the egg before its time, it would not be a good thing. Could cause some damage. But that's what we do when we hear stuff and we filter it through our mind and we think we understand, and then we try to apply this understanding on our own inner life. You see what I'm doing? I'm just trying to show you that there can be damage done. To learn to receive this, and when you say your mind is getting tired, and I'm like, oh, what a good gift that is. Good. Right? Can you feel this being shared directly in? And can you trust that? And of course, we're participating, intellectually we're participating by understanding that that's what's happening. You see? Mm-hmm. So the mind is involved. We're including it. We're not negating it. We're letting the mind recognize that it doesn't need to understand. It's going to understand some things. It will be very involved in a lot of things. But the how-to place, no. That's the damaging part. That's the part that says, I need to do it. I need to get it right. And this is where sensitivity, devotion, humility plays a big role, because humility is recognizing that the mind says, I have no idea what's happening in me. Right? And the more it's out of the way like that, the more it recognizes that it doesn't have any idea what's happening. It's out of the way. And then this transformation process, the one that's being received and sensed, can really kick in. Right? Can really kick in. And you know it. You know it through your sensing that there is a tremendous transformation happening. You're not getting the best experiences you want. That's not what I mean. You sense that you're getting changed from the inside. Mm-hmm. And I think you know what I'm talking about, don't you? It's not what you thought, is it? It's happening on a much deeper level. And that's the good news. Because that's the level it needs to go to for us to have any lasting, deep relationship with the infinite reality. The more we learn to receive, the greater the transformation. If we're trying to get it right,
will really kind of slow things up. Which is the paradox, isn't it? I'm trying to get it right, so I'm really messing it up. I know that people's intentions are very true. I know that. And the challenge for me is to convince you of a different way. A way of love and trust and receptivity and openness. Because it's my job to give you your own experience as something that's real and valid and useful. But when you're trying to convince yourself that your experience is not the one you want, it's really difficult for me to do my job. Pretty darn impossible. Because it's the ping pong ball hitting the closed garage door. Right? It just can't go in. If you're really, really, really convinced that the experience you have is not the right one, it's wrong, it needs to be better, it needs to be different, then I don't have a way in. And, I can't remember Amma's exact words about all this, about what a real disciple is, but she says, it's not the teacher's job to change the student. It's the student's job, something like that, to be receptive. And the more receptive, the more you're embracing what a real disciple is. A disciple is something it's a receptacle. That's what a disciple is. It's a receptacle. Just as I'm a receptacle. I much would rather be a receptacle than anything else. It's really, really nice. You don't have to do anything, you just hang out. Why not? Let the transmission do the work. Let the consciousness do the work. It's going to anyway. No matter what you think you're doing, it might take a lot longer. Can you feel the joy of receptivity? And I know you keep using my name, but that's all I keep coming up with. And I used to just, and I know I'm not the only one, I would just sit in Amma's presence for hours, just soaking it up. It's like, like laying under a sun lamp, or not the sun lamp, but the sun even, it's what it is, just soaking and soaking and soaking and soaking. And why? Forget dinner. I don't want to get dinner. I want to soak. Soak and soak and soak and soak and soak and soak. I never got tired of soaking. And I would sit there for hours. People used to always say, God, you sure sit there a long time. On the floor. I didn't need to be right up close. It was okay, about halfway back. And Amma, she could see me soaking, and so she just poured. Because that's what this does. It sees you soaking, it sees you open, and so it rushes towards you. That's the feeling I feel when I'm teaching. I feel like it's like, oh, receptacle. Good. Right? If it's blocked, I kind of feel like, okay, we'll wait. It's still going there, but it's just gonna, we'll just give it a little time. Kind of like a little moat, Go around and wait. And then maybe a little crack starts to happen. Maybe, there's a possibility. There it is. Remember I said we only need a crack. That's all we need, just a little bit. And there's a way in. Doesn't need very much. But how many times have I seen people come to satsang, and they've been to lots of satsangs, and they think they know, and they come here and they expect something. And that expectation is the shut door, garage door, no door, ping, pong, pong. And then they blame me for not fulfilling their expectations. It's happened so many times. I can't tell you. It's kind of painful a little bit, But then maybe that's just the way it is. Some doors are open and some doors aren't. Some doors are open a little bit, some doors are like, this is great. Right? Because what wants to keep the door a little shut? That's right. That's for the receptacle to see what's trying to keep the door shut. What doesn't want to open the door? Yeah. I know.
Yeah. You might lead me astray if I just really open.
Yeah, I might. I could. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. But I know is what keeps it closed, huh? I know. And I have felt myself. I'll never forget one time. I had been living in Tiruvannamalai for a while. And, I used to sit in the meditation hall for many hours every day and go very deep, and it was really great. And Tiruvannamalai was very different in that, I don't know, people started to recognize me and know me. Where in the ashram, you're just one of the kids. Anyway, so Amma was coming to Madras tonight, and I was like, oh good, I'm going to go see her. And it was hard for me to be away from her during that period. Anyway, I went to see her at her temple, at her ashram in Chennai. And it's really crowded, but I got, right up there, and all my buddies were there, all my ashramite friends, and, then I could feel like, what are you doing, Joy? Why aren't you with us? Why are you here? But boy, because I'd been away from Amma, there was something that started to develop in me, which was an I know. I was on a new path of inquiry and having tremendous results and experiencing incredible depth and silence. And as soon as I showed up amongst my friends, I didn't see it coming. I know popped up. Right? So I'm sitting, this is a great story. It's very, very revealing. I'm sitting next to Amma, and I want to give her prasad, which was you put the little candy in her hand while she gives darshan, and then she gives it to the person. And, and even though I wasn't really on that tour, they let me do it anyway. And I'm sitting next to Amma, and that I knownness was there, and I had no idea it was there. Okay? I had no idea. I just thought I knew. I had had some pretty amazing experiences. And Amma was there, and she kind of looked sideways at me, and I was really happy to be with her, but I could feel myself, I was puffed up. Just a little puffy, you know what I mean? And so she looked at me, and I was going to give her the prasad, and she called one of her brahmacharis, one of these male monks, to talk to her. And in order for him to talk to her, he had to lean over me, kind of, and he literally, with his body, blocked my view of Amma. But meanwhile, she's still opening her hand, and I still have to get the candy in there. So I'm like having to reach around this guy and put the candy in a hand that I can't see. And it was extremely uncomfortable and extremely disconcerting, because I wanted this nice closeness to Amma, and it was being blocked by this guy, interestingly enough, I just recalled this, by a brahmachari that I used to think had a big ego. Perfect. Perfect. What a setup, right? So the big ego is blocking me from having an experience with Amma. It didn't matter whose ego it was just ego. Right? And and it's going on, and it's going on, and it's going on, and it's going on, and nothing is changing. Amma's keeping that guy right there. You know, Amma's here, and the guy's like here, like literally in my lap. And I was extremely uncomfortable and getting more and more agitated by the moment. And then, you know, I feel the little tap on my shoulder, and it's time for me to get up and for the next person to be able to give the prasad. And of course, as soon as I got up and the next person moved up, I'm going to let the guy go, and everything was back to normal again. And I got up, and I lost it. I realized what had happened. And I was so humiliated, something like that. Yeah. Humilified works really good. Yeah, it works. Because it's like I'm humilified.
Nullified.
I was totally humiliated. I mean, like the ego. But this is kind of how a master works. It's exactly how a master works. She gets that ego to come up, and she whacks it. You know? And that was a perfect example of it. She's Kali. You know, she's really, really good at it. And she pulled it up, and she whacked it, and it hurt like hell. And I cried for hours. Right? It hurt. And my beloved, you know, look what I had allowed to come up in between me and the beloved, my beloved. And it was such a powerful lesson. Right? I know. And sometimes we need really, 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 really strong stuff like that. And I'm so grateful for Amma to pull that crap out of me, you know? And she used to say, it hurts me more than it hurts you. You know, just like a mom would. Right? And then after the program was there, I'm standing with everybody and, you know, my friends, my sisters from the ashram, and they're all going, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? And, you know, and they could see how upset I was, and I just felt so loved, right? I just felt so loved and so touched, but really worn out. Really, really wiped. And then Amma came down after the darshan, and she came down, and we were standing there, and she just walks up to me and squeezes my hand. You know? And then I took it as a call to come back. You know, I think that night I was there, and I just said, Amma wants me to come back. And I remember I was standing right in the front, and that thought came through, and I thought, Amma wants me to come back. And I looked up, and she's just looking at me, smiling. you know. I mean, who knows, you know. We have to go through these processes to get that ego to come up. I know, right? It comes up and it there it is. And thankfully, I had somebody there to whack it off, right? Because not everybody does. Nobody, yeah, and I hardly have, you know, I mean, I wouldn't have recognized it. I wouldn't have not have recognized it. And so the moral of the story is what's blocking our sharing with one another? What's blocking this intimacy? Because the intimacy is so available. Right? That's intimacy. Intimacy is the consciousness pouring into itself. And, you know, another brief story. I hope you don't mind my stories. I have a lot of stories. One time, the first time I sat with Ajahn, it was the same thing because I just was this open receptacle and the consciousness just went there. And I had never had a male teacher before. And it was like, oh my, you know, it was different, right? But it was no less intimate. And I remember it was the old days when we could write him little notes and tuck him under his little chair. And he, you know, I just said, the intimacy that I'm experiencing here is a little bit unnerving, you know, just to share it with them, just to let him know that, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to explode, and you're the one that's making me explode, you know? But that's what it can feel like. That's how close we become. That's what, yeah, it can be confusing for some people. And so for that kind of vulnerability, it's like, oh, I don't know, this is a little too intimate, right? But this is what's possible here. I'm just telling you that you can open up to receive this. It's not joy. It looks like joy. It feels like joy. It sounds like joy. It smells like joy. But it's you. It's the sameness. And it's the sameness, the one touching itself, the one entering itself, that immaculate conception. Right? That's pretty darn intimate. And this is really what Tantra is, by the way. The Westerners have taken their own little version and blown it out of proportion, but that's just like a tiny, tiny, tiny little aspect of what real Tantra is. Tantra is the art of receptivity. And so this is what a real teacher-student relationship is. I'm going to talk to you all the time. My words are a vehicle. They're a little car. Beep, beep. But sometimes your mind will shut off. It used to happen when I'd be out with Ajahn all the time. And he'd be up there talking, and there was no words coming in. No words. Just this. Right? Just this silent sharing. And don't ever ask me what he said afterwards. I never recalled a thing, except for that one story with the Marlboro lady and the Buddha. Isn't that interesting? And so if you don't remember what I said, you don't need to remember what I said. Because the words went in, the little car went in, and the little transformation happened, and you don't need to know what that was, and it's done. Over, finished, completely. It doesn't need to be recalled. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because the one that wants to recall it is the one that wants to understand it and own it. And actually, the little Marlboro lady story, that I went and I bought the tape because I wanted to hear the story again because it was so altering. So I wanted to hear if I missed anything, and it was such a simple story. I bought it and I listened to it once, and of course it was nowhere near as altering. And then the CD broke or something. It stopped playing. Yeah. There's this thing with technology, it's like, well, right, okay, this is the best hot song I've ever given, right? Every time this time it's working, I think, but, there's been so many times when it's been just really great, or at least I thought so. And then it did, the recording broke. Oh, there goes that idea that it was really great and it needed to be saved. What we hold on to, right? Or attempt to hold on to. When the whole thing, it just wants to get annihilated. Just completely erased. Until there's just nothing but the receptacle and the infinite pouring itself in, living through it. Oh, I can't wait for that to happen. It's what I really want. That's what the ego would say. But don't worry. It can't survive it. The ego wants flow to happen first. It doesn't work that way. Flow happens cleanly when the ego's out of the way. And it only happens when it's out of the way. Cleanly. And that is something that I've noticed we have to check in all the time. Am I in the way? Am I in the way? Am I in the way? It's something that I'm continually looking at. And maybe someday I won't have to. Maybe there will be nothing left to be in the way. But thankfully, I do for now. Because I know what in the way feels like. It sucks. I ain't doing that again. Or maybe if I do, hopefully I'll see it right away. In the way sucks. It's a complete blockage of it. And why would we want that? But we will be in the way. But something keeps pushing, right? It just keeps pushing on that, pushing on that, pushing on that. Like the river. The river keeps pushing on the beaver dams and the log jams and and the eddies, just all those little obstructions. It keeps patiently pushing on it, till there's no such thing as a log jam, and there's no such thing as an eddy, and there's no such thing as any kind of block. Because the block thinks it wants its experience of the river. Until it has it, and it's no longer there to have that experience. Does anybody have any questions? Or you're all in receptivity, I know.
So I think the receptivity can be blocked by the contraction in the body, right? So it can be experienced physiologically.
I think you can be receptive and still be contracted. You can be resistant. You can be afraid. But you can still be open.
That's good to hear.
A lot of times I'd be sitting with Amma and I'd be in a lot of pain, and the contraction going on, but there'd still be an open, receptive quality to it.
Yeah, I guess
that's a good question. That's a great question. Yeah.
The emotional kind of. I don't know what kind of contraction it is. It doesn't just feel like a bodily thing, but.
If I'm saying no, then I'm not open. Then I'm not receptive. But if I am having a lot of pain, and even though the body doesn't like the pain, I can still be open. That's definitely possible. And this is something that is beautiful because it's the openness that starts to transform the body's relationship to the pain, isn't it? Yes, Sever.
How about other physical things? I don't want to make it religious, but I'm thinking, like diet, yoga, rituals. Can those improve your receptivity, or not unless they happen instantaneously?
It depends on your.
That if I become, vegetarian, I'll be more receptive. Should I go do that? Or, it's a little religious attitude.
Yeah, that's a bunch of shit stuff, That's a bunch of shit stuff. Right? And that can really feed the I know. I am a vegetarian. Have you ever listened to a vegetarian that is really proud of it? It's not so inspiring to become a vegetarian, is it? Right? But if it feels like an authentic movement, that maybe you just want to feel lighter or healthier and cleaner, you want to experience what it's like to not eat meat for a while, from your own curiosity, from your own exploration of life, then by all means, be a vegetarian for a while. But if you're like, God, this sucks, I need a big old steak, you know what I mean?
So then I have a next question. Why, I mean, I sometimes think about it, why, Jesus or Muhammad or other, those older, prophets, would give people orders like that? I mean, if weren't they advanced enough to know that these things are not...
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
They're called what the Buddhists call precepts, right? They're for beginners, and precepts are very important for beginners because they help the mind to stay focused. And just like chanting. Chanting is beautiful. It's not necessarily just for beginners. I love to chant. But chanting is also something that allows the mind to stay focused for a certain amount of time, right? And without going into la la land, it also helps the heart to open into devotion, and the vibrations of the chant also do something to the nervous system. The toning, right? The toning, it vibrates. It's like another little tuning fork, right? So all these things have many faceted usefulnesses. But if we're doing it as an improvement program to become more advanced, it will probably not work so well. We'll probably get tired of it. We won't be inspired. Inspiration is key. Come from inspiration. Amma used to say something like, when you meditate, it should be like eating ice cream. It should be yummy. Like a nourishment of the soul, right? You're spending time with yourself. We're not doing it to get better, to become better meditators, or we're not doing it to get some experience. We're doing it from our devotion. Because our devotion is inspiring us to. Our devotion is guiding us to. Our devotion is letting us know that it would be good for us to spend time with ourselves, to feel the sense of self, to get quiet and not be distracted by life. And maybe the devotion is guiding us to become a vegetarian because it might be nice to not eat meat for a while, for whatever reason. Or maybe the devotion is leading us to do yoga because it feels really good on the body, opens up all the nadis, all the channels, all the meridians, gets the breath moving, right? Makes us more bodily aware. And it's good for us on many different levels. And it's good for us for many different reasons. But if I'm doing yoga for exercise and to become more fit, we're not going to get all the benefits out of yoga. Because yoga is much, much deeper than an exercise. Right? So if we can allow the devotion to lead us, right? And to let it inspire us. Otherwise, everything we do will become dry and stale. Like Amma says, it'll be like eating stones. Totally undigestible, right? Totally useless, basically. Why would we eat stones, right? Right? Break our teeth. Now, stones she used to keep a little bowl by during meditation, and she'd throw them at you if you fell asleep. Yeah. We used to have this day, it was called Meditation Day, long, long time ago, on Tuesdays. And we'd all gather at early morning. We'd start sitting there till lunch. One solid 6-hour meditation. And she'd have a little bowl of little stones there. And if you were falling asleep, poink, and she'd laugh. And she had a really good aim, too. Even if you're sitting way in the back, she'd get you. Amazing.
amazing.
They're not good for eating, but they're good for throwing at sleeping people. So, come from your heart. Trust that. Trust it. That's what I'm saying. It's give it its lead. You know what I'm saying? Because otherwise we're coming from this that says, I know this will make me a better person. I know this technique is going to get rid of all my baggage. I know if I do this, I'll be better than everybody else. I mean, that can really feed the ego and become very problematic. Right? But that's what most people are doing. Eating stones. Yeah. Because when it's like ice cream, it's yummy. There's a joy in it, a delight in it. Not for the results you're getting, but just for the simple pleasure of doing it, for the simple pleasure of partaking. You have no expectations from it. Just as like you have no expectation from a true devotion. None. That's how you know it's true. When you have expectations, it's not going to be so true. Right? But that happens too. But if you have a lot of them, I would pay attention to that. You know, that's not really being honest with ourselves. A few expectations are natural, though, because that's just what the mind does. It just takes this kind of going, ooh, what's this going to look like for me? Right? All this great meditation and experiences, and wow, this is going to be great. It never works out. No problem. If we're coming from a real true love, we have nothing to worry about. Nothing. Because we're coming from a true love again and again and again and again and again. And that love gets stronger and purer and more potent. And don't ever underestimate its power. Because I don't have words for it. I don't. Just blows all that away. But that's what's happening. So let love fill you. Let your little circuitry just totally go bonkers and blow circuits. It's really quite enjoyable. Changes things. You have another question?
I just remember I mentioned to you I was wanting to explore a little more around fear and using that as a potential tool to put yourself into situations that you know will bring up fear as a tool to see its illusoriness.
Mm-hmm. Like what kind
well,
of...
I think about like rock climbers.
Oh God, no way! I can't do
but
that.
see, I couldn't do that either.
Yeah, but there's a instinctual fear.
Yeah.
You know, which is like, okay, there's a mountain lion coming. Holy crap! Let's leave now, right?
But for instance, I did a ropes course once, and I was completely locked in,
Gripped.
safe,
Oh, I
no
see.
problem, and I could not let go of this thing to go to that thing on this tightrope.
Maybe
I
you're...
was terrified.
I know. I have a fear of heights. You know, and that's just what's happened in this little wiring. I just have a fear of heights. So is that really practical to say we're going to bring up fear because of the fear of heights? And actually, last year, we were hiking, and this friend of ours says, lean over on this rock. And I'm leaning on it, and then he starts shaking the base of it, and the whole freaking thing is moving. And I'm like leaning, and I'm like, I don't like this. And he goes, this is good for you. I go, it is not good for me. I want off.
But see, that's what I'm curious about.
Nah.
Well,
my being did not like it. It was like it put its feet on the ground, and it was like, oh, I'm much happier here.
Well, and you didn't choose to do it. He was doing it to you.
Right. And even though it was just a pure projection, and he was doing it because that's what he really believed. And I was totally safe. Remember that, Lee?
Who was it?
I don't want to talk about who.
It's interesting to know that we're safe. It's like, intellectually, I knew I was safe. I was strapped in. They had me completely covered in that way, but I could not do it.
Yeah. And that happens. There's just something that the body, that's going to say, it's not safe for me. This is not safe for me. And it's not what I like. And some people just have a basic instinctual fear of big waves in the ocean, It's like, whoa! Right? Or being alone in the wilderness. Right? It's like, whoa! Right? And stuff like that, that's kind of basic instinctual stuff that goes with the wiring of the body. Why some people want to scale up a wall and some people don't. No, thank you. I am perfectly okay feeling comfortable with my activities rather than pushing myself into places that don't feel comfortable. Life gives me plenty to bring up fear. I don't need to bring up fear. If we're open, right? The fear is existential. It's a fear of annihilation. The instinctual fear is coming from, one of the things is age. We become more cautious as we age, right? Because we don't want to fall down and break a hip or something. There's the existential fear that comes from life, that comes from the unknown. Okay? when the mind starts recognizing that it can't know past this moment. Trust me, when that starts to happen, plenty of fear will show up. You will not have to pursue it. Okay? And so, maybe that would be your way to start to recognize mind. Look, can you know what's tomorrow? Can you know what's going to happen? Right? These are kinds of fun little ways to ask questions. To start to get it to be really kind of honest with itself. Because it's really good at pretending it does know. When I first started to when my mind started to recognize that it couldn't know what's past this moment, it started freaking out. I tell people this. It goes sideways. Mm-hmm. It goes like this way. It's like looking for a way to know what's out there, and it just goes. And it's weird because it can't go forward, so it starts to go sideways. I can't describe it, but you'll know it when it happens. But the fear, and then it imagines this big cliff, and it thinks it has to jump to go forward. It thinks it has to take the big leap of faith thing, right? So it starts to imagine what the unknown is. Trust me, in that imagination, tons of fear will come up. You will not have to go and try to make it happen. Do you see the difference, kind of what I mean? It's a different fear. It's an existential fear. It's a lack of control fear. If I don't know what's going to happen, then how can I have a plan? And how can I be the doer that's going to make things happen? That means I have to, not do? This kind of examination, investigation, it has the potential of bringing up plenty of fear. Plenty of fear. Yeah. But if you're not comfortable climbing on a wall or doing a ropes course, From
my experience, I agree that it's a different kind of fear.
It's a different kind of fear.
It's not the same thing at all.
It's a completely different kind of fear. Because the other kind of fear can actually be overcome by the ego. The existential fear is the ego. It can't overcome itself.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's what you tend to see in these super athletes and stuff, is the ego has managed to move them in such profound.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to control this fear.
You have to do it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So does that help?
I think there was some, for me, I think there's some sort of fantasy that, oh my God. How do I say this? Some kind of hope or desire that I'll move beyond my humanness, that this it just feels like such a trap for fear.
It feels like a trap for ego. Ego doesn't like humanness.
Yeah.
Ego wants, remember that shiny, polished, silver image of itself. It doesn't like humanness. Humanness is faulty, it's blemished, it's imperfect. Right? Ego doesn't want...
identification with the body, I've just kind of had it so... just keep wanting to push it away. I can't.
No, you can't. It's through the humanness.
Yeah, and that's what you've been emphasizing so much this weekend, and that's really important for me to, because I really want to kind of get beyond this fear of being in the body.
Well, very well said. Very well said. Yeah. The fear of being in the body. We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
Okay?
I'd like to play more with that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Okay, good. Unless a plan changes. Just remind me, okay? Just remind me if I forget.
Jean, have you ever done the Course in Miracles? That's where I first bumped into existential fear. It's like the whole thing is geared towards fear. Yeah.
Love or fear. That choice. What? The choice of love or fear.
Mm-hmm. And love takes you through the fear. Yeah. And I have another story for tomorrow about that. Okay. Just remind me so I can.
Don't forget it.
Oh, I won't forget, but I might forget. All right, everybody. Are we good for now? Good for now. Feel pretty full, pretty soaked, pretty saturated. Okay, good. Good. It's been a great day.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Namaste.
Namaste.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Like in the next minute.
Very soon.